Okay, so welcome to Allilon Unplugged, number 15, guys. So tonight, I'm going to be showing you a combination of shapes. We're going to be going from a layered shape into a graduated shape through the nape. But I'm going to start by basically separating the haircut into two major zones. So if you look in the mirror, Michelle, if you want to zoom into the mirror over there, I've got a side parting, head down for me, a side parting, which basically goes back to the crown, and if you come over here and zoom into here, it goes up and across, and then goes down through to the back, off center. So if you look, it's going to go off center. Okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a combination of factors to create my overall shape. I'm going to start my haircut on the left-hand side, okay? And I'm going to start it in the nape, okay? So for those of you who are tuning in, if it's your first time with Allilon on the Allilon Unplugged, welcome, and please, please, please feel free to join in with any discussions that we might be having. And for those of you who it's your many times kind of joining us, welcome back, and hopefully tonight you'll enjoy what I'm about to show you. I'm going to focus on keeping quite a lot of length in the front, okay? But I am going to focus on getting rid of a lot of the internal shape, and I want to go for something which has a little bit of movement to it, but it's quite graphic and quite sharp on the exterior shape. So I'm going to start in the nape, okay? I'm going to start by taking a diagonal section. So my section is diagonal, but it's closer to vertical than it is horizontal, okay? And then what I'm going to do, Michelle, if you come on this side, babe, stay on this side. That way I'll play to you, okay? I'm going to comb the hair from the back, so that way section 1 is coming straight out from its base, okay? And I'm going to basically create a shape which is shorter internally, shorter externally to longer internally, okay? So I'm going to build an element of weight on the internal shape. Now the key here is to be mindful to look at the root of the hair, because the root will help me understand what my shape is doing. Now that's the first section that I've cut, that's section 1. Now my sectioning pattern is going to move all the way up the head like this to this point here, okay, which is just behind the top of the ear. And every section, 1 will go to 2, 2 will go to 3, 3 will go to 4, and so forth. So horizontally my shape will be round, but vertically my shape will be triangular. My vertical shape will be triangular due to the angle of my cutting line, due to the elevation that's being used, and due to the fact that I'm slightly over directing the top down. And again, comb the hair out, look for your guide, and take it away. And I'm combing from the back forward to guarantee that number 1 is moving to number 2. Number 1 is obviously my initial guide. And again, this is now section 3. Now it's important that you count, and we talk about this every single week. For those of you who it's your first time with us, we really try to focus on getting people to understand cutting by numbers, because cutting by numbers basically helps you understand one thing. It helps you either understand the movement of the guide, or it helps you understand the movement of the hair being introduced to the guide. That's physically what it's showing you. Okay, so in this scenario, it's 1's going to 2, 2 is coming out from the base, 2 is going to 3, 3 is coming out from the base. And I'm going to continue, and the most important thing when you're working is how clean you're working, because when you're working clean, you're actually in control of your shape. I keep my finger there, I comb the hair away to start off with, but then before I go to cut it, I come from the back, so that way 3 is now going to 4. Whereas if I comb from the top down, 4 would be going to 3. So I would be increasing in my length. At the moment, that's not the plan. So if you guys have any questions, I want you to feel free to ask. And Jamie and Michelle are helping me today with the filming. Jamie's going to be sharing the questions, and Michelle is going to be basically trying to film as best she can. And I'm going to try and play to the camera so you guys can see everything that I'm doing. Feel free to ask questions, and also, if you want to, in the bottom left-hand side of the screen, there's a share button. If you want your friends to have a look, or if you're happy to share the video please do, because the more people that we share it to, the more people that we can ask questions, and the more information I can deliver to you guys. No question is silly. Every question is important. And the chances are, if you're thinking it, somebody else is thinking it. So please, please don't be scared to ask, okay? There's no such thing as a silly question.
No questions coming in yet, but lots of hellos.
Hello, everybody.
We've got a hello from Angelo from Germany.
Cool.
Hello from Vietnam.
Cool. We're very lucky to have people from all over the globe tuning in with us, and I really want to say thank you for tuning in, because I really enjoy sharing with you guys. And I know the team, we've had a couple of team sessions. Actually, before I talk about that, let me show you what I'm doing. Look, see how the head's facing that way? Look at my body. Zoom out. That's my body. I'm having to bend to get the angle. Whereas if I just change the head, come closer now. If I change the head like that, look, my body straightens up. So by adjusting the head so the face is looking away from me, I'm able to straighten my spine and protect my back, okay? Really important. One of the biggest things, I actually met someone today, ironically, who was telling me that, you know, he loved being a hairdresser, but unfortunately, he was never trained to watch his body posture, and he had to stop hairdressing because of that. Because he had back problems.
We do have a couple questions, Johnny.
Okay.
It's a good time.
Yes, please.
Sherry Mendez just joined.
Hey, Sherry.
New viewers, and she just wanted to know if you could recap what you're doing.
Of course, of course. So far, Sherry, did you say?
Yes.
Perfect. So thank you for your question, Sherry. So far, let me explain to you what I've done, for those of you who are joining us now. Basically, we've put, if you look, zoom in the mirror, Michelle, we've got a side parting going all the way back to the crown. Now if you come around here, Michelle, and then from here, going down, offset to the back, down to here, corner left side. Then what I did is I started taking diagonal sections like this, working 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, using elevation and a triangular cutting line. So my vertical shape is triangular due to the cutting line, elevation and the over direction. And my horizontal shape is round due to the fact that I'm lifting the hair coming straight out. Now that I've got to the top of the ear, I'm going to change what I'm doing. So if you move around a little bit, Michelle, stay there for me. Okay, now I'm going to change it. I'm not going to come from up here. I'm going to come from down here, and I'm going to focus on the hair around the hairline first, and I'm slowly going to pivot into horizontal. And the reason for that is because I want to increase my length around the crown now. So by using a pivoting motion, I'm able to go from a diagonal sectioning pattern into a horizontal sectioning pattern, which will allow me to keep a lot more weight in this area, okay? I'm going to use Day Day. So this is Day Day. I use it every week. It's my favourite cutting lotion, and I use it on absolutely everybody. Don't be scared to use it. You can't really overload the hair with this. And I'm really going to focus on the short hair, because see the hair that I've just cut, we've got a little bit of movement on the texture. So by keeping the hair damp, it enables me to really control that hair. Now here, I'm going to basically come across. See, I tilt the head. If the head goes like that, I have to bend my whole posture. And I want to really be careful that I don't damage my spine. So I move the head slightly, and I'm going to come from here, I'm going to come right across like this, okay? Now I don't need to use clips because I'm going to focus on my grooming. So I hold my finger there, I lift the hair up, and then I come in and I cut a graduated line, which goes from shorter all the way through, and it follows itself around. I don't want to keep all this length through here. I'm going to go slightly shorter. And I'm going to continue now, taking sections that are slowly becoming more and more horizontal. Okay? And I'm combing from the underneath. Now, by combing from the underneath, what I'm encouraging is elevation. Whereas if I come from the top, I'm going to encourage de-elevation, which means I'm going to become slightly heavier. And I'm going to keep elevating the hair slightly. I'm still pulling it below its root. In other words, I'm not combing it out from the base. If I was coming out from the base, I'd be flattening the shape through. But I still want to build weight. So even though I'm combing from the underneath, I'm still making sure that the hair that's coming out is coming below its root, not coming out from its root. So I'm going to continue. Now I'm coming through with a wide tooth of the comb first. And then before I go to cut it, can you see that every time I comb the head changes position? So I've got to be really mindful of that. then I come from the underneath again. And can you see that even though I'm coming from the underneath, the hair is still coming lower than the point where it needs to come. Like that. Good.
We have a question about the cutting motion.
Okay.
Baptist wants to know where he can find it.
Okay. So, I don't know if you ever use, it's a Yanis.
Yes.
Okay. Where is Yanis based? Where's he from? Yanis, tell us where you're from, and I'll try and give you the best advice possible. With a name like Yanis, he's probably Greek. I'm assuming he's Greek. If you are, basically we use a product company called Davinus. Davinus is an Italian brand, but they distribute to many countries around the world. Greece being one of them, Cyprus being one of them. So it depends where you're from. If you would like to, you're more than welcome to email me on info@Allilon Education and address it to Johnny. And if you email me where you're from, what country you're from, and then what I'll do is I will get in touch with Davinus head office and I will find the distributor for that particular territory who will get in touch with you to purchase the products. The cutting lotion that I'm using is called Day Day. It's part of the Essential range, and it's just beautiful because you don't overweigh the hair down. It doesn't feel too heavy. You can constantly use it, and you don't really get a build up. It just helps the comb kind of glide through the hair really easily.
We have another question about what you're doing there from Kim Franklin Hickman.
Hey Kim, from South Africa.
She asks, will the shape be heavier on the side as you are using horizontal sections?
That is 100% right, Kim. So, because the reason what I've done is I've basically pivoted from here, from diagonal into horizontal, to maintain the weight and the length in the front, but still connect it into the crown. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make the weight sit a little bit flatter, I don't want it to drop into the front. I want it to be more consistent. So by working horizontally, now my elevation is in control of my vertical shape, and my cutting line is in control of my horizontal shape. And I'm connecting it into the crown. Can you see I'm maintaining more length for the crown now? And every time, you can't see it at the moment, but I'm going to bring a bit more attention to it. Every time I'm shifting the weight on my knees. So 1 minute I'm leaning this way, the next minute I'm shifting it this way. So I'm going there and there, like that. So I'm envisioning this shape. But I'm trying not to round off because I don't want to cut my fringe off. So I need to basically come from here, and I'm pulling to the centre of my chest. This is the last section on this side, and then I should be done. Then I'm going to move on to the next side. This haircut is going to be a very, very consumer-friendly haircut. It's going to be something that you could do in the salon tomorrow, and it's going to be something that's going to have a nice movement to it, but at the same time make the hair feel nice and heavy and quite dense, because the problem we've got is that, especially through the back, it just felt too heavy and too bulky, whereas this length here actually sits quite nice. Okay. Now around the ear, I could carve around the ear, but I don't want to. Let me explain to you why. On feminine kind of shapes, you tend to keep the outlines a little bit softer. If I do cut it quite graphic, I could do something quite graphic over the ear, but I don't need to because it's sitting really nicely. So all I'm doing is basically just dusting off using the tips of my scissors. I'm just going to dust off any little excess and just shape the front hairline exactly how I want it to sit. So I'm going slightly rounder. And you notice I'm cutting it with the tips of my scissors, so it's quite soft. Okay, that's one side done. Now, by keeping it softer, I can tuck it so it looks feminine. Yeah, but it's still fitted. Okay, now I'm going to use some oil milk. Thank you, Alex. So I'm going to use a little bit of oil milk. This is the oil milk from Davinus, okay? And all you need to do with this one, you don't need to use too much because it can be heavy. It's basically literally, it's almost like a milky type substance. And by spraying it on, you get a little bit of residue on the hair, and it will basically help all these little baby hairs kind of support itself. It will help them dry by themselves. Comb that into position, and then leave it. Let it dry by itself. Because don't forget, the head is releasing heat constantly, so the head is going to dry out. So that is the shape that I'm trying to create. Once I cut the outline off, that whole shape will come alive for me. Now I'm going to move on to the other side, which is the heavier side of the parting. This is going to change a little bit, so let me focus your attention on what I'm going to do. I'm going to use this center point here as my guide. I'm going to use Day to rehydrate this hair for me to make it easier to control. Okay. Then I'm going to start the base again at the nape, okay? And I'm going to take a diagonal section this way. I'm going to comb the hair out. Now that is too wide because my guide is too far across. So I'm going to move my body further along, come across this way. Okay? And I'm going to use that center point as my guide. Now what do I need to be careful of in this area? I need to be careful of the flexibility of the skin, because the problem people have around this area is they lose control over their tension because they're not mindful of the fact that the skin has an element of flexibility in this area. So I comb from the back, that way I'm lifting the hair. I'm still coming away from coming straight out from the base, so I'm not coming there because that will be straight out from the base. I'm still over directing it slightly, and I'm coming through diagonally. You can see every time I come to here, look what happens to my comb. Look, it knocks me off because the trapezius muscle is very, very predominant here. So I need to be really careful about the tension that I'm using in that area there. Okay, come underneath again and shift my body round now. So now I'm standing parallel to my shape. I'm combing the hair out. I'm combing it once and cutting it once. And that's a major thing you need to start to do. Be mindful that timekeeping in the salon is really important, and often what you find is if you take too long putting your basic shape in, you lose time to actually control your shape. This hair, groom this hair so it's super clean. Yeah, you really want to try and work as clean as you can. Everything you do. What I try to do when I cut hair, whether I'm cutting a client or whether I'm doing anything for an education point of view, I always try and imagine that I've got a camera on my shoulder, filming everything I'm doing. And what I never want is for people to look at my work and go, oh, look how messy that guy is. I always want people to look at it and go, yep, he's really, he's working really clean. I can respect that. So I always, in my mind, psychologically, I always imagine there's a camera here and filming, seeing what I'm seeing. So I try to make sure that I work as clean as possible with my grooming. And I'm shifting, because now I've come to this side, I'm shifting my weight again. So I'm moving around. Otherwise, if I stand over there, I'm going to overdo it towards me too much, and the shape will become far too heavy.
We had a question come in a little while ago while you were working on the left side,
okay.
And it was from Andreas.
Hi, Andreas.
Santhariotis.
Yeah.
Butchered that. He said, why not cut alternate sections to complete the back before moving to the sides?
Good question, Andramo. Basically, in my scenario, I'm treating it in my mind as two separate shapes, which I'm going to connect. And the reason for that is because one shape, this side's going to be flatter because it's heavier because it's got more hair, and this side's going to be heavier, so my weight line's actually going to go slightly higher and down. You see what I mean as I work up the head. But the reason why I've gone offset is because I want to manage and find the right length on this side, and then I'm coming off that, but I'm rotating it, so I'm going round. Because if I stay here, I'm going to become really heavy on that side, and that's not what I want to try to do. I want to make sure that my shape flows nicely through, okay? So, to answer your question, why am I not alternating, is because I'm cutting two completely different shapes, but connecting them through.
Mandy Gates just asked a question. Why are you cutting in that direction?
Okay, so in regards to my grooming, I'm assuming, or in regards to the angle of the cutting line? Let me answer both, okay? So my grooming now, if you notice carefully, I'm coming from the top down. Can you see that? Whereas before I was coming from the bottom up. So now that I'm coming from the top down, I'm basically combing section 4 to section 3, section 5 to section 4. So I'm increasing in my length as I go up the head, okay? That's one, in case that's what she meant. In case she meant about the cutting line, in this scenario, my cutting angle is determining what my vertical shape looks like. So my cutting angle is triangular, okay? Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make sure that my cutting line is in control of my vertical shape, okay? Like I said, on the bottom left side of the screen, there's a share button. If you'd like to share it, the more people we share it to, the more people we can connect with, and the more questions we can ask, and the more interactive we can make this session. Thank you for your questions, guys. I'm enjoying it. It makes it really fun for me to have to think while I'm cutting.
We do have a few people that have just joined us and are asking for a recap.
Okay, perfect. So let me go back to the beginning. I started by taking, shall I come in here? A side parting that went up, round the crown, and then came down off centre, came to the bottom left-hand side of the nape. I started at the bottom with diagonal sections, working on the base, so it was 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and so forth up to this point here, with a number system I've told you what number system is, 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. So my cutting line was triangular, so I was building some weight, increasing my length internally. Then when I got to the top of the ear, my sections then became completely diagonal, like that, over the ear, and then slowly pivoted to horizontal, worked up like that, to build a slightly more heavier shape through the front, maintaining some weight around this area here. Now, I came to the other side, and I worked diagonal sections coming off that, and I moved my body every single time, and I've worked on the base, so I've worked from the underneath for at least three sections. On the fourth section, I started to come down to the previous, so I could start to build my weight. And the key to doing this now is your grooming. Remember, messy sections, messy haircut. Don't try and create something mechanically clean and technical if you're approaching it in a really messy way. It just doesn't make sense, it's not going to be achievable. So really work on your grooming, really focus on how tidy you are. And one of the things I've been focused on this week with our teacher training group is the discipline behind grooming, because if you can really master the principles of grooming, you don't need clips, you can work very methodically, you can always see your guide, you can stop yourself from getting lost because you can count your sections, and people can learn from you because you're working clean. And I think the beauty of what we do is that there's always somebody watching, there's always somebody learning from you, be it an assistant or a customer or somebody. So always try and work as clean as you can. Again, try and imagine you've got a camera sitting on your shoulder and everybody's watching everything you're doing. Okay? It's really important. Especially if you're in a teaching environment, it's important that you lead by example. So again, I'm nipping the hair in, I'm going tight. So I'm mirroring now the angle on the other side. My body's moving every time. And I'm connecting it in to the previous length on this side. And every time you cut the hair, another thing I get people to focus on is the grooming. So comb the hair into position. And the reason why you should do that is because what we